Hello, welcome to my garden. I'm Gary Simon, and Sheila Conway has asked me to do a follow-up video blog for WPS Eco. It's a beautiful autumn day, the sun is shining, and I can't wait to plant some bulbs for a spring display. But I just want to say a few words first about what happened to the summer display. We were dealing with an immense drought, very, very difficult gardening conditions. But it seems to me that the shade-loving plants, the hostas, the heucheras, the begonias, the fuchsias and the coleus all did particularly well in those dry conditions. And I've certainly learnt from that and will be taking it forward to next year. So without further ado, let's get on to bulb planting. And I want to take you into the greenhouse where I've already got some bulbs underway. So let me show you a few things going on in the greenhouse. Over here we've got some hyacinth bulbs just started off, one for each of the grandchildren. They've planted a hyacinth bulb in one of these little glass vessels. Very cheap to do, very easy to do. Also I've got some paperweight daffodils growing in this ornamental container, and they will flower for about December. Over here I've got some amaryllis newly planted up about a week ago. They'll come into flower in about December. Beautiful blooms. These are all last year's amaryllis which I've saved. And then finally, under the staging here, I've got my cannas which I lifted last week, those huge lilies that I showed you in the summer. I've just split them up, washed them off, let them dry, and I'm going to pack them up into boxes nice and cozy for the next 3 winter months. So now let's move into the potting shed. So here we are in the potting shed, and I've laid out my tulip bulbs with my earlies, my mid-season and my lates all set out in a pattern, and I'm going to plant them in pots in succession. I'm going to plant containers with tulips, and instead of leaving them outside, they're going to be in here frost-free for 2 or 3 months. If you haven't got a shed, you can use a garage or an undercover space as long as it isn't freezing and wet. The problem with containers is if you leave them outside during the winter, first of all, the squirrels get to all the bulbs, they dig them out, and there's nothing you can do to protect them. And secondly, the bulbs in containers get totally waterlogged. We've had 2 really bad springs and the bulbs rotted in the containers. So today I'm going to plant 2 early varieties. Candy Prince, this beautiful lavender colour, and Apricot Fox. I think they'll go beautifully together. They're both early varieties. I'm going to use 12-inch containers. So in one of these I can probably get 20 tulip bulbs. I cram them in. I don't have them separated by a few inches like the packet says you should, because I'm not planting them in the garden where they need to expand and naturalise. Here I'm really after one thing, which is a display in around April, May time. So the first job is to get the compost ready, and drainage is particularly important. So I'm going to take some compost here. This is silver compost, which is one recommended by the Royal Horticultural Society. It's peat free. And I'm going to mix it with some sand because I want it to have more drainage. So a few handfuls of sand into the compost and then mix it all together, and that will give super drainage, which is important because the roots need to be able to populate the compost very easily. So I take my container, into the bottom I put a couple of crocks, bit of broken crockery. That will improve drainage as well and make sure the drainage holes don't get blocked. Put the compost in like that, fill it up about a third full, and that's ready now to take my bulbs. So now I like to put a few handfuls of pebbles into here so the bulbs sit on a pebble base and they don't get waterlogged. And now I place the bulbs pointy side up. The basal plate where the roots come out are on the bottom, and I pack in 20 of these bulbs together. Almost there now. You can see they're very closely packed together. Not what the packet says at all, of course. So now just cover them up. Don't worry about the expense of the compost, because at the end of the season all of this goes on the compost heap and gets mixed in with other organic material and thrown on the garden so that you're recycling it. Have a nice big label and stick it in the pot. So now what I'm going to do is give the pot a good drink. This will keep it going throughout the winter. I'm just going to wait until this appears at the bottom of the pot, and then I know it's enough water's gone through to sustain it through the winter months, and it might just need a little bit more water later on in the season. All that remains now is for me to put the pot into the potting shed. So we've now done all the hard work. All the bulbs have been put to bed. We're just going to wait for the results in April and May. There's still time to grow some bulbs if you haven't bought some already. And I look forward to catching up with you again in the spring. Bye.